Kadosh, Boker Or, Bekiim Halacha 5, day 16, preface. Right, we are now starting a new concept in Siman 32. We're talking about now the preface of writing the letters and correcting errors. So let's start. The following is a general summary of the main halachic principles regarding the writing of sacred scrolls. The formation of each letter is an entire halacha, subject unto itself, with dozens, even hundreds of details. This summary covers the Shulchan Aruch Siman 32, halachot 15 through 28, and the comments of the Mishnah Berurah Kol Yaakov and other Achronim. The correct formation of each letter is the subject of Siman 36, and the Achronim left no stone unturned in expounding on the details of each letter. But this subject will not be covered fully in the English edition of Hilchot Yosef. Since this edition of Hilchot Yosef is only a general synopsis of these halachot, the reader is warned not to assume that he will be capable of ruling on the subject after studying this volume alone. Only a Torah scholar with extensive experience of the subject is qualified to issue halachic rulings. For each case can be influenced by the slightest detail. Those who choose the profession of being scribes, sofrim, and certainly those whose task is to inspect sacred scrolls to determine whether or not they are kosher, must study many volumes to ensure their expertise in distinction between what is kosher and ideal, what is kosher and not ideal, what is not kosher at all. Anyone who aspires to the profession must seek personal training under a Torah scholar who deals with this area of halacha on a regular basis and who has amassed a great deal of experience. The following are the basic areas of halacha pertaining to the subject. Shapes of the letters. We have many traditions regarding the correct shape of each Hebrew letter. In many cases, it is very different from the shapes that we find in printed books. Since our sacred scrolls are handwritten, it often happens that a letter does not come out the way the scribe meant for it to be. Sometimes the letter is kosher and can be left as it is. Other times it's not kosher, but since its basic shape is clear enough for a child to recognize it, and may be repaired and brought up to standard. Sometimes the letter is not kosher and must be erased and written over, which is not allowed in Tefilin scrolls or mezuzah scrolls. In such cases, the scroll cannot be used, right, for the mitzvah and must be deposited in genizah. So now we're going to speak about hak tochot. Yeah, hak tochot. He says, the sages taught in Gittin, wherever the act of writing is required, it is not permissible to form a letter by erasing the ink around the letter shape or by etching some material and leaving the letters in relief. The term chak tochot means sculpting in the center. It refers to a drop of ink in the parchment where the letter samech is required. If someone forms a samech by scratching away the ink in the center, the letter has been formed by chak tochot. The letter is not kosher and it must be erased and written again. Poskin debated whether the entire letter must be erased or if it's just sufficient to erase part of it and then write the missing part. Shelo kesidran. Right? What is Shelo kesidran? A special stringency applies to Tefilin scrolls and mezuzah scrolls. That is, that each letter of the scroll must be written in order. Regarding Tefilin scrolls, it means also that each of the four passages must be written in the order they appear in the Torah. Our sages derived the halacha from the pasuk Vayud Vrima Ele. What does that mean? It has to be written in the scroll in the same way there's pictured in the Torah. The Pri Megadim emphasize, right, that this is a Torah rule, and therefore, if any questions arise, safek Torah telechumra. Sometimes the letter has been written in a manner which is not kosher, but its basic shape is correct so that a child will easily read it in that way. Even though the scribe has continued to write the rest of the scroll, it's still permissible for him to correct the letter, and it's still considered that he wrote all the letters in proper order. The halacha of Shelo does not apply to Sifrei Torah. It may be written in any order. Even if the scribe purposely writes it out of order, there's no problem. Furthermore, where there's a mistake, right, it's permissible just to erase the mistake, and then that's it. And then write those letters or words over again without any problem. What about refraining from purchasing Tefilin scrolls that have been corrected? The Mishnah Berurah, right, introduction to Mishnat Sofrim, states, some scribes are not fluent in the halachot of Shelo kesidran. They make corrections on their scrolls that are not permissible due to their ignorance. They might have been mistaken impressions. Shelo kesidran is an issue only if someone makes a correction to scroll that has already been written completely. But that until then it is permissible to correct any errors, the errors that he may found. Even though he has written more words beyond that point, there's a terrible mistake. For the entire scroll is not kosher once this takes place. The only time it is permissible to correct an error after writing beyond it is the basic shape of the letter was intact and it only needs a slight adjustment. Not everyone who writes sacred scrolls understands the halakha that applies to it when does not. Therefore, the proper policy is for the scribe to refrain from ever correcting a Tefilin scrolls or mezuzot unless the correction is anything the poskim clearly permit. The scribe should not take the liberty of deciding on himself. He should go to a posek. This is true not only regarding corrections by writing on the letters itself, but also by erasing letters. Right? The Yeshua Chok Dechot apply even if the erasing, both of these principles are complex, and the scribe may not assume that he's fluent in all the details. The author of the Chayei Adam wrote that his practice was whenever he hired a scribe to stipulate the scribe would not erase anything from the scroll he writes. In this way, he could be confident that he would not do a yisur of Chak Tochot. This is not a solution, however. For avoiding the issue of Shalok Isyan, to avoid all the problems, the scribe must write each letter with great care and not come to the next letter until he's satisfied that the previous letter has been written properly, kosher. He says there are God-fearing people who are scrupulous and pay a high price to hire an expert who knows how to produce tefillin batim that are kosher in very detail. This is certainly meritorious, but it is even more important to be concerned about the scrolls which are in the batim. People must take care to hire scribes who are fluent in all the halachot regarding writing sacred scrolls and who do their sacred work with great care and patience. Even if a single letter is written incorrectly, the entire parashiyot is not kosher. Right, as the Gemara says, even if only one missing letter is the tip of the yod, also it's not going to be kosher. The Talmud adds this is the Rambam's ruling, and anyone who wishes to serve as a sofer, right? He comes and he says, or a magia. So he says, must study all these halachot, review them until he's immediately, intimately familiar with them. He must study all the details of the proper formation of the letters, distinguish between those factors that are absolutely essential for a letter to be kosher and those that are only ideal, right? In order to be professional in the ruling when questions arise, the magia must have apprenticed the competent rabbi and learn from him how to approach each issue.